So, I happen to be the Guinness Book of World Records fastest talking female. And one of my philosophies in life is always just say yes and figure it out later. And that philosophy actually helped me with something I did evolve into a whole career. Okay, here's what happened. So I was working at WBLS FM radio in New York City, and I was writing comedy for them. And then kidding around one day, I said I could do this really cool Mae West impression, but I called the character June East, Mae West's long-lost sister. So the guy flings the weather and traffic copy at me. And you know, in radio, when the little red tally light comes on, you have to start speaking. So all of a sudden I start going, oh, today the weather and traffic is. And in the 30 seconds I happened to do it, a lady from the Daily News was listening. So she calls the station and she says, listen, I'm doing a story on weather and traffic, people. How long you been doing it? So I was doing it for 30 seconds, but I wasn't going to tell her that. So I said, oh, I've been doing it a while. So she says, well, what are you planning on doing next? I didn't have a next, but I had a lady from the Daily News. So I said, oh, I'm thinking of breaking a world record. And she's like, for what? But I didn't have a for what. So I said, oh, I can't tell you because it's going to jinx it. She goes, listen, the article has to go in by 6 o'clock today. If you decide you want to tell me, give me a call. So I run out and buy a Guinness book and I start looking through it to see what record I can break. So it was now 5 to 6 and I had to go on stage and I'm like, should I call this lady? Should I not call this lady? And so I decided I would call her and I would tell her that I would try to break the record for fast talking. So she says, what's the record at? Now I'm looking in the book and I said, oh, the record's at 552 words a minute. And she says, what are you at? I went, 550. Those last 2 words are a killer. So she prints it in the paper. And the very next day, the Larry King Live people call me up and ask me to go on the show and break the record. And to be honest with you, I didn't even know who Larry King was. All I heard was cable, and I was like, is this some kind of porn thing? And they're like, honey, no, this is a national show. And I said, well, what if I don't break the record? They said, Larry doesn't care whether you break the record or not. He just cares that you try it on his show first. So I was like, okay. So I called up Guinness and I said, what do you have to do to break the record? They said something from Shakespeare in the Bible. Well, me and Shakespeare never got along. So I had a prayer from the Bible that my mother taught me. So they said that the limo was going to come to my house to pick me up. So I had like 5 hours to practice. So I'm at my home going like, he that dwells in place at the most high shall abide under the shadow. It's like smoke's coming out of my head. And, you know, I'm trying to say this thing. I get to the studio and I go on air and I break the record doing 585 words a minute. And then I rebroke it at the Guinness Museum in Vegas doing 603.32 words a minute, which comes out to 11 words a second. So I broke the record because I just said yes and figured it out later. And now, many years later, I'm still making a living off my fast talking.